2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Let the record show that 4 members are present. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Hey, Mike. I put your warrants there. Okay, under appointments and resignations, we have an appointment of Robert Wood as full-time provisional fire captain in the Norton Fire Department. Hey, Chief.
Good evening.
Robert Wood, yes.
Yeah.
How y'all doing?
Good, how you doing?
So we're respectfully requesting 2 provisional appointments, the temporary appointments to cover the leave of absence of one of our captains. So Lieutenant Wood's appointment to captain would directly cover that leave of absence, and Firefighter Crowley's appointment to lieutenant would backfill Lieutenant Wood's position that was created by that. So the appointments, they'll reduce overtime. It'll allow the members to get some needed experience in those positions, and it'll also increase continuity on the shifts from a supervision standpoint as well. So they're both well-qualified, good individuals, a lot of experience, and I have no doubt they'll do a good job in these positions.
You want to read into the record?
From Michael Units, Town Manager. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen that, in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as full-time provisional fire captain in the Norton Fire Department, Robert Wood. The appointment was made on September 16, 2019, and will be effective on October 1st, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to said date. I specifically request the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of September 22nd, 2019. Second?
Second.
A motion and a second on the appointment of Robert Wood as full-time provisional fire captain. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Robin.
Sir?
Congratulations.
Jump right on the next one.
Now we also have the appointment of Robert Crowley as full-time provisional lieutenant in the Norton Fire Department.
All right. From Michael Units, Town Manager. I hereby notify the Board of Selectmen that, in accordance with the provisions of Article 4, Section 2B of the Norton Charter, acting in my capacity as the appointing authority, I have appointed the following individual as full-time provisional lieutenant in the Norton Fire Department, Robert Crowley. The appointment was made on September 16, 2019, and will be effective on October 1st, 2019, unless the Board of Selectmen votes to accept or reject the appointment prior to said date. I specifically request the Board's acceptance of this appointment with an effective date of September 22nd, 2019.
Moved. Second.
A motion and a second to appoint Robert Crowley as full-time provisional lieutenant in the Norton Fire Department. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, under licenses and permits, we have a vote to approve the amended license of John M. Freeman, DBA Freeman's Garage, adding Dorothy A. Freeman as co-owner on the Class 2 and Class 3 license. Do we have anyone here to discuss it?
John's here.
Yeah, it's up to you, John, if you want to.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay.
Explain to Jennifer, it's just a estate planning thing, no other changes.
Okay, great.
Read.
Yep.
Dear members of the Board, the purpose of this letter is to request that the Board, acting as the licensing authority, make a change to my Class 2 and Class 3 motor vehicle licenses. I would like my wife, Dorothy A. Freeman, added as a co-owner, enclosed in a new business certificate showing that this is now the case. This is being done for estate planning purposes, and no other changes to the licenses, premises, or operation is contemplated. Thanking you in advance, John Freeman.
Also moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the amended license of John M. Freeman as requested. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. We have also in the packet an application for Norton Parks and Recreation for a parade and motorcade permit for the Halloween parade on Sunday, October 27th, from 12 to 2 p.m. to assemble at Fitness 1440, LJ's Car Wash, Bedrock Granite, and Oasis parking lot, and disbanding at St. Mary's Church and Norton Middle School. Want to have a chance to review the... Chair would entertain a motion to approve the application.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application of Norton Parks and Recreation for a parade and motorcade permit for the Halloween parade on Sunday, October 27th, 2019, from 12 to 2 p.m. Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. And we have an application of Norton Gold Star Committee for a Halloween hayride in conjunction with Norton VFW 8049 on Saturday, October 26th, 2019, with a rain date of Sunday, October 27th, 2019, from 3 to 8 p.m. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second to approve the application of the Norton Gold Star Committee for a Halloween hayride in conjunction with the VFW 8049 on Saturday, October 26th, from 3 to 8 p.m. Any further discussion?
No.
You look
Oh,
like you
no.
had something.
Well, I was just going to say, I attended this last year, and it was a great event.
Okay.
Kids there really seem to have a nice time.
Yeah, it's a busy weekend for Halloween. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Now we have an application by Christy Pedro for a one-day beer and wine, bring your own beverage or booze license for a private event at Everett Leonard Park on October 5, 2019, from 2:30 to 6:30. It looks like it's been signed off by everybody that needs to look at it. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application by Christy Pedro for the one-day beer and wine license on October 5, 2019. Any further discussion?
No.
Ms. Daly?
No.
No.
Oh, aye, yes.
Ms. Steele?
Yes.
Yes.
Conway? I too vote yes.
Wrong time on the
Who
eye
made the
contact.
motion? Who seconded that?
Motion was Mary Jack second, or other way around?
Other way.
Other way around.
Okay, thanks. Just in case.
I thought you didn't hear me.
And Renee just woke up.
No, you said in a discussion, I said no, and you said Renee, and I said no, I thought you didn't hear me.
Now we have an application of Tim O'Leary for a one-day beer and wine license on October 19th, 2019, from 7 to 9 p.m. to be utilized at O'Leary's Gymnastics Center, 350 Old Colony Road, Norton, Massachusetts, for a public party. And again, everything seems to be signed off by everyone who needs to look at it. Chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second for a one-day beer and wine license for Tim O'Leary for October 19, 2019. Any further discussion? Ms. Ellie?
Aye, yes.
Ms. Steele? Yes. Ms. Conway?
Yes.
I do vote yes. Moving on to new business.
A little while before.
No, I know.
If I was you, I would move
To
to
6?
5, 6, and 7, yep.
So, the Highway Department is looking for us to declare 7 plows and a transmission jack as surplus equipment. We're going to sell it on that municipal bid or...
Yeah.
So we'll get some money back for that, but knowing Keith, these things have seen the, as far as they're going to go. So Chair would entertain a motion to declare 7 plows and a transmission jack from the Highway Department as surplus.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Oops. And we also have a request from the police department to declare a 2008 Dodge Charger, last four of the VIN 5002 as surplus. Same thing, we'll go on the municipal bid and get some revenue back for it.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second to declare the Dodge Charger as surplus. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So, do you want to get into anything on your report that we could?
What about this one on the sign? No parking this side of street?
Okay.
I just don't know where it is in the,
Oh, yep, good call. We have a request by Sharon Rice from the Parks and Recreation Department for approval of a no parking this side of street sign on Woodward Street for the vendor fair at Life Church. Any additional detail on that? When is that? Do we know? Oh, there it is. So, yeah, it's on 9/20, so 9/21, there'll be a vendor fair at the Life Church, and they just want to make sure that there's, in case there's overflow of cars that won't fit in the lot. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second. For discussion.
Any further discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Steele?
And then, is there a timeframe on this? And they go up, and then how long do they have to take them down, or? I'm just curious, because this isn't forever, right?
Right.
Just-
No, it's just during that one, while their event's going on, and then they'll take them down right after.
And then they'll be responsible
Yep.
for taking it down, okay.
Do we know how long just assume it's during daylight hours, right?
Right.
Any other questions? All those in favor of no parking signs this side of street on Woodward Street for the vendor fair at Life Church?
aye.
All those in favor, sorry, yeah. It's unanimous. Minutes.
If I could just give one update, I know everyone thought they were going to be spraying for mosquitoes, but it's been too cold the last few nights, so they haven't been able to spray, so hopefully, the temperature has to be 58 or above, so hopefully, it looks like this weekend it's going to be a little warmer, so they'll be able to do the spraying.
It would be great if it was 36 degrees and we'd just get rid of them all.
I know.
We can save the spraying altogether.
I thought they died at 55.
No, it's
Yeah,
hard
tonight's going to be
frost.
cold again tonight, so I'm not sure they'll get them tonight.
Tonight's will be 36.
Ooh,
It will be? Oh, there you go. Can you give the update on free cash, is that?
Well, why don't I do some of the other stuff?
Yep.
Just update on the community aggregation program and electric bills. The only reason I want to talk about that is we do have people that call and come in, and they do not understand that we don't run the program. The town's only responsibility in the program was at town meeting, the residents voted to become part of the community aggregation program. And people have the opportunity to opt in or opt out. And people come in and they show us, well, look at my electric bill, look how high it is, and look where it was, and it's gone. It's only the distribution part of your bill that is affected by energy aggregation. It has no say over all those other things that National Grid charges you for. So just look at that charge, and that charge is lower than what National Grid would charge you if you went with them for the distribution. So that's the only part of your bill you have control over is the distribution. So with the energy aggregation, with all these other towns that we're part of, we get a better rate for distribution. Everything else is National Grid and no control over that.
and Mike, is there a deadline for people to sign up for that, to change over to?
Yeah, it's long they can do it. If they're not on it already, they can ask to be on it. Everyone is automatically on it unless they opted out. And then sometimes there's issues where people just moved into town, and then they'll have to sign up. And it's on our website. If people go onto the town website, you can find it and see where to call if you have an issue with it.
Thank you.
Okay, under new business, we have a 7:15, we have a public hearing on the application for a change of officers, directors, LLC managers, change of stock interest, and change of manager for the retail packaged goods store license to expose, keep for sale, and sell wines and malt beverages not to be drunk on the premises at 250 East Main Street, Norton, Mass., from Neha Corp., DBA Quick Stop, Robin Body K. Patel, manager, to Neha Corp., DBA Quick Stop, Ekta Patel, manager. Come on up.
Good evening.
And I'm sorry if I mispronounced those.
It's all right. It's quite common. If it please the board, my name is Arthur Perlman. I represent Ekta Patel and Neha Corp., DBA Quick Stop at 250 East Main. If I may, I'm not sure who gets the original. I got an affidavit with regards to who took the original. I got copies for everyone.
Thank you.
This is the affidavit you need to show that there was
Thank you.
notice provided.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're seeking a transfer of stock of the corporation from Raymond Patel to Ekta Patel, who will now be the 100% shareholder. They're also seeking a change of officer, director of the corporation of Neha Corp. To Ekta Patel. Lastly, they're seeking a change of manager on the liquor license to Ekta Patel. The corporation holds a wine and malt beverage package store license, and therefore this change of ownership and officers and directors and manager must be approved by both the town and the ABCC. I submitted an affidavit to you right now with exhibits relative to the published notice. Mailed notice to abutters is not required for these type of changes. Neha Corp. Is a Massachusetts corporation. If the transfer of stock and change of officers and directors are approved, Ekta Patel will be the president, treasurer, secretary, and the sole director, and 100% shareholder, as well as the manager on the license. Ekta Patel is currently living at 13 Westcott Drive in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Ekta, as a manager on the liquor license, will be spending 40 hours a week at this location. The current operating hours will be maintained. The layout of the store will be maintained. Nothing regarding the operation of the business is changing. This is all about corporate structure and stock ownership, as well as the manager on the license. Ekta Patel is familiar with the laws relative to the sale of alcohol and will uphold all the statutory laws and will, as well as any rules and regulations of the town of Norton regarding the sale of alcoholic beverages. I would respectfully request that the change of officer, director, stockholder, and manager on the license be approved.
Do you have any questions for, regarding the change?
Can we just have a minute to?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fine.
Yeah, please.
This other stuff would be roll call.
Yep. Do we have anyone in the crowd that wants to speak to the license change? Or to the corporation change? discussion at all?
Almost there. So just one question, I see the query request, are the results in here as well?
Pardon me?
The query request form? I see the query request is in here, that came back clear?
That goes right, ABC does that.
Okay,
We can't share the results, we just let you know if someone...
yep, well, that's what I was wondering,
Yep.
if there was an issue.
No.
So my only comment on this, just to the board, is that there is a social security number in here, so we just need to make sure we shred this if we're not keeping it, any additional copies. Otherwise, I'm fine, no additional discussion.
Okay, so Chair would entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Now, Chair will entertain a motion to approve for change of officers, director, managers, change of stock interest.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second for a motion to approve the change. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, excuse me, it was roll call. Ms. Deli?
Yes.
Ms. Steele?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
I do vote yes. Yep. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Right. Welcome to town.
Okay, moving on, we have an update on the Senior Center by Beth Rossi, who's the Director of Human Services and Council on Aging. Hey, Beth, how are you? Good, thanks.
I usually come here in the fall to sort of give you an update on the past year of the senior center. One of the biggest change is population in town, and currently we have 4,379 residents over the age of 60, which is an increase in 959 from 5 years ago. So that number is growing. We're doing an awesome job at the senior center. You know, our whole mission is to provide services and programs to enhance quality of life, to offer support so people can remain in the community as long as possible. And we do that through a variety of programming. We offer a balance of fitness programs. We offer everything from Zumba, Tai Chi, meditation, line dancing. I'm missing something. We also offer a lot of educational programs. We've had elder lawyers come in. We have frequently have people come in and talk about senior scams. And the third aspect that I try to keep a balance of is social activities. So tomorrow we have a great entertainer coming in. Last week we had a phenomenal singer. I put a lot of things on Facebook to sort of show people the variety of activities that we have. There really is something for everyone at the senior center. We're going to be starting a book club at the end of the month. Our sewing and quilting group is making some beautiful items. Our knitters are knitting away, getting ready for the holiday season where they do most of their charitable work. So the senior center is, we're running at capacity, as we have been for the past few years. Our needs haven't changed. And I appreciate all the work that you all have done and the building committee has done and my board has done to really highlight the needs of my department. As you all know, and I keep telling people, and not everyone knows it, we're not just a senior center. I'm also the Director of Human Services for the town. So I gave you another copy of this, which sort of highlights sort of what we do, what our mission is, and how our programs have grown over the years. The changes, the major change in here, so we don't have enough parking, and I worry about that. I worry about that and start to lose sleep this time of year because it's getting colder. And I know I'm very grateful that we're looking towards to talking and discussing and getting a new facility, and I hope I have all your support on that because it's desperately needed. The school was real generous to offer us a portion of their land, but unfortunately for the confidentiality issues I have with some of the clients, I didn't think it was the best spot, and my board agreed on that. One way that the schools could support us would be to move that garage. I've been asking for that for 5 years. It could be a cheap thing. I'd even kick in some money to move it, put up a metal building somewhere on school property, so at least I have a visual sight of people who are parking. Just in the short term, I don't know. Because winters are terrible. I have people who park behind the garage. It's icy, it's slippery, and if somebody fell, I wouldn't know. And sometimes they opt to park over at the pizza shop bagel place, and sometimes they're climbing over snowbanks to sort of get to my facility because it's just the way it is. So our needs haven't changed. I appreciate the work that everybody's doing. Our population is increasing, but it's not just for the senior population isn't the only segment of the community that we're assisting there. If you look on the sheet, there's a number of 2,250 people, that's individuals, we're using our human services. And you're like, what is human services? That could be anything from a Medicare appointment. I'm a certified Shine counselor, as well as Kathy Venom, my part-time outreach worker. We did 358 Shine appointments last year. We helped 67 families with fuel last year, doing the fuel assistance application, and we had 81 emergency requests that we were able to help with. So those numbers don't reflect the people we couldn't help. So you probably think, what's an emergency service? Just last week, I had a woman come into my office who had not had heat or electric for 6 months. She was surviving in her apartment, it's starting to get cold. And we were able to help her out. I don't have funding, I don't have a discretionary fund, but I work very closely with the St. Vincent de Paul Society through St. Mary's Church, as well as the Salvation Army. So there are resources to help people out there who are struggling, and I don't leave any rock unturned, to try to get them the services that they need. That's our mission over there. Any question on that stuff?
One thing I did see, that Norton is second to last in the state for town-supported services for seniors. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. A lot of towns have, more staff, more, if you just look at my operational budget, you take the salaries out of it, it's heat and lights, and it's a small building, and that's pretty much, we do have a little line item for supplies, but basically it's heat, lights, and building repairs, that sort of stuff. So I'm very creative. All of the programs that I have, majority of them I get for free. I barter with different local nursing homes where they will come in and they can advertise their facility if they give a lecture, or if they provide us with a meal, or if they do things like that. So I'm very creative on how I am still able to run quality programs. We do get a grant from the state. It's the formula grant. I'm only able to use that money for certain expenditures, fitness being one of them, so I am able to pay my contractors through that. I in turn charge a very small fee for those classes, so it's $2 a class to come in Zumba, and then I take that $2 and I can use it to pay my entertainers. So I'm juggling, and we're doing what we're doing, but we have one of the best senior centers around, and I say that very humbly, and it's because I have a lot of volunteers who work there, and it's about the residents who come through the door. It's a warm place, it's a happy place, it's a vibrant place, and I said this at one of the other meetings, I'm like, there are no people, I think I was quoted in the paper saying, there are no old people who come, through my door. I think a lot of people have this old, antiquated vision of what a senior center is, and they picture people sitting around a table knitting, and that's it. I can't keep up with the fitness people. Seriously, I'm winded. I go in and I pretend, and then I scoot out because it's amazing. And I think that's what we as a community and as a society need to do. We need to work on building people up so they can be the best community members we have. And that's rolled into my mission, whether I'm dealing with a senior resident or whether I'm dealing with a resident who's struggling. It's all about, fostering self-sufficiency and independence. So,
Yeah, and I visit your pub in a couple times. Unexpected.
yes,
Yeah,
yep, you do, Peter, thank you. We love it when you come by.
that's like,
So I just wanted to let you know, we have, this is my crunch time. We're heading into the fall. I gave you a couple of flyers. We did get a small grant from the Massachusetts Council on Aging in the tune of $250 to sponsor a community walk. So that's this flyer that you'll see here. That's going to happen on the 28th. I partnered with Conservation and Recreation to get some support. It's going to be a guided nature walk. We're going to have some music. We're going to have snacks. People can bring lunch if they want. We'll have water. It should be a really nice time. Hopefully, I'm praying for a nice fall day for that. Another thing that's coming up, pains me to say this so early, is Thanksgiving. So you have another flyer there. If anyone knows of a shut-in, a senior or a veteran who's going to be alone on Thanksgiving, if you could just have them or somebody on their behalf give me a call. We are taking names to receive meals for Thanksgiving. The other big thing that's happening is Medicare open enrollment starts October 15th through December 7th. If none of you are on Medicare, it is one of the more confusing things you'll ever join. As I mentioned before, my outreach worker and myself, we're both certified SHINE counselors, so we know the ins and outs. We have access to the computer where we can do a search to make sure that our residents are getting on the best plans for them. It is recommended that everyone who is on Medicare evaluate your plan during this open enrollment. A lot of people like the status quo. They don't want to change. I had one guy come in, I tell the story all the time. He was, he had to have been almost 80. He was all mad. He comes in stomping, I don't want to be here, my wife made me come. And I'm like, all right, humor me. So I put all his information in the computer. His drug list was the length of my arm. It took me about 20 minutes to input it. He's like, I don't want to change. I like my plan. I like the girls at CVS. They're nice to me. I said, all right, let's just do the search. And it came out well. If he stayed where he was on, he would have paid $700 a month. But because we researched it and checked it for him, it came out to $75 a month. That's a huge difference. And this is how they make their money. So the best plan for people this year, guaranteed, is not going to be the best plan for you the following year. So we're having an informational session on October 16th, thank you, from 11:30 to 12:30. We're going to have Lisa Sarkis. She's the director of the SHINE program in this area. She's going to come and give a talk. We usually have it on cable, so I'll make sure that they're there. Hopefully they can come as well to tape it. And she'll give some of the highlights of the changes that are going to happen in 2020. But if you want specific plan information, if you're on Medicare and you want specific assistance, you need to call and make an appointment for that. Another thing, I know I was supposed to limit this to 15 minutes. How am I doing?
good.
I still have more to say.
Questions, though, Beth.
Huh?
I said I have some questions.
Okay, we'll get there.
Yep, I'm just numbering them.
The other thing that's happening starting November, actually it already started, is fuel assistance. It's the other thing that keeps us really busy this time of year is the federal fuel assistance program opens up November 1st. If people were on the fuel assistance program in the past, they should have received a recertification in the mail. We've had a lot of people come into the center already looking for help to sort of complete that recertification application. But if somebody is new and they feel like they could benefit from fuel assistance, I don't have the guidelines in front of me yet. I'm going to that meeting next week. But that's another thing that we are overwhelmed with this time of year at the senior center. And I got one more thing I want to talk about, I think. The CAR program. Yeah, I came in front of you, I think it was last year, and we talked a little bit about the CAR program. CAR stands for Community Access to Rides. This whole program came about through a study that the YMCA conducted. They looked at the areas that they served and what were some of the biggest problems. And they found transportation as a big barrier. No surprise to me, I've been advocating forever that, especially here in Norton, the Norton Glen, Jacobs Way, those are our low-income housings, they're not on a bus route. So these people sort of fall in a hole where they can't get to the needed services they needed. They can't get to unemployment, they can't get to the Department of Transitional Assistance. We have dial-a-ride for our senior disabled folks. It works, it's not ideal, and it doesn't go everywhere. So there was really a big hole. So I joined with the veterans agent here, and we joined this collaboration where we had some grant funding to start it out with, and we started this program. And the first year was phenomenal. We weren't advertising. It's not like it's free rides, but if somebody came to me or called me and said, hey, Beth, I've got this, I can give you an example. I had a woman who needed to get to court for a hearing regarding custody, and she had no way to get there. She's like, Beth, if I don't get to this appointment, I could potentially lose my child. And, I mean, this is the stuff we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And luckily, I had the CAR program, and I was able to say, don't worry about it, and I set up the appointment, and she made it. We've used the CAR program from everything from medical appointments. I've had a 90-something-year-old veteran taking it to a medical appointment that MedWheels, he couldn't get a MedWheel appointment, and dial-a-ride didn't go there. I've had people use it for job interviews, people to get to court, job interviews, pretty much everything. And again, it's across the age spectrum. This year, so in the past year, where are my stats? We've had 109 people use the CAR program to a tune of a little over $2,000, $2,664. And that money was all in grant funding. So now we're in the second year. We had some leftover funding, and right now the funding is hurting. So the program is suspended for a bit, but it's something that's really, really important. So I've been working on getting some more grant funding. We're working together as a team with the coalition. It's all the different human service agencies that are involved in it have been working hard to get more funding. So that's that. The other thing that's new that I've embarked on is Kathy Varner, my outreach worker, and I, we're going to be SNAP outreach partners, which is exciting. SNAP is the program that's formerly known as food stamps. So by being a partner with DTA, we will have access to the DTA computer. So before, if somebody came in and was struggling, I'd look at the criteria and see if they qualified for for food stamps, and we would do an application, would put it in an envelope, and would mail it, and it would get lost, and they'd come back, and we would make a bunch of phone calls, and we would do another application, and we would send it out, and then we'd fax it to, and they'd get half of it. So now we have access to their portal, so we'll be able to upload stuff directly. We'll be able to track people and find out if they receive their benefits and how much their benefits are. And another benefit that you guys would probably like is that there is a cost reimbursement for us to being partners with them. So they will pay for 50% of our expenses that are towards the program. And that'll be in a reimbursement.
I just wanted to say, the town's very lucky to have Beth and Estelle, our veterans agent. I know they were working together Sunday with a client.
9 at night.
9 at night on Sunday, someone that was desperate, and that's the things they deal with all the time, both of them, and we're lucky to have them.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just stole exactly what I was going to say, so, yeah, well done, Beth.
Thank you.
Good job, Beth.
Any other questions?
Any questions for,
I have some, if you don't mind. I'll go backwards from the.
You can go backwards.
So on the CAR program, you
Yes.
listed here about you're trying to raise $35,000 to sustain the program? Is that something you're trying to do with local businesses, or is that something overall that?
Yep, that's what we're trying to, right now, I didn't have a brochure to send you, so I just printed this up to remind me to talk about it. Yes, we are actively fundraising. I did get a very generous donation from High Tech in town, which was exciting. I also wrote an ask to Mansfield Bank, and hopefully they'll contribute. I know some of the other members of this collaborative, so we're involved with the YMCA, Attleboro High School, the ARC, Sturdy Hospital is now on board, as well as the Literacy Center and St. Vincent de Paul. So everyone is trying to raise the money, but it's expensive. Uber is our platform. We have a business Uber account that we all share from. The YMCA is the fiscal agent, so they handle the billing and stuff like that.
I was going to ask about Uber, because I think you said 109 people and it's $2,000.
Yeah, it's Uber.
Yeah, that's quite hefty. Okay.
It's
That's-
hefty.
that's-
But you have to think, if, one of the other things I didn't tell you is, yeah, the average ride is like $25, because Norton
It's in the middle of nowhere.
is in the middle of nowhere, especially
Yeah.
for where these people need to go. Any other questions?
I do, yes.
Oh, shoot.
You talked about the Shine program, and you said, like, you're gonna try to work out for the cable group to come and record it.
Yes, yep.
How do you get the information out to people who may not be visiting the senior center now?
I have a newsletter that goes out every other month. That newsletter goes to every resident who's 60 and older. If you're listening to this and you're 60 and older and you don't get it, please call me and we'll put you on the mailing list. Again, that is funded through the formula grant through the state. They want to get the word out. You'll see my newsletters. I usually leave a bunch here. I think I put them all in your box, too, right?
Yeah, we get them. I was just wondering about us.
Yeah, no, they get mailed to everyone 60 and over in town.
Okay.
And it always has information about Shine. It has information, all the information I gave you is in there.
Do you want to tell your number real quick for people who might be watching?
I don't know, do I?
it
508-285-0235.
And then you mentioned, or actually in here, you talk about Jack asked you this about the town-supported services. So what are some things that other towns are doing that we aren't? Like, just to understand kind of scope and why we want to.
It's a total amount of money spent on senior services. The huge one is staffing. I mean, right now, we have one full-time person, and as of today, we have one part-time employee. Most towns have a separate person for human services and council on aging. I'm doing both. So I think that's a big part of it. I think there are some towns that give programming money. I don't have any money for programming.
Most towns have vans. My town is 10,000 people, 7 square miles, and we have 2 council on aging vans.
Yeah.
To transport people?
For transport, yeah. We don't have a van, a driver, anything like that.
And how, do they supply drivers too, or is it volunteer? Do you know?
They pay drivers.
Most of them pay. But, I mean, most COAs have a director, an assistant director. Sometimes they even have like a program coordinator, admin, and minimum of 1 full-time outreacher, usually 2 or 3 for outreach for the people who are in crisis. So I think that's the big area that we're lacking, and and my town budget doesn't have any funding in it for programming at all. So I'm creative.
Okay. And you mentioned early on about, I think you were talking about the land that was offered from the school, maybe? Mm-hmm. And you mentioned just something about privacy issues. What were the privacy issues?
Again, because the new facility, as we were planning it before it sort of got put on hold, is going to have the food pantry in it. That's one issue. So we are thinking, and I spoke to Gloria about this, that it may not be very comfortable to sort of pull up to a facility right next to a ball field where, kids and other families are. So there's that sense of privacy issues. I had people come to my place at Christmas time. We're loading up a truck full of gifts. I wouldn't want to do that
Okay.
in the vicinity of other people.
No, I understand. And the food pantry, too. The food pantry now is attached to Town Hall. And I thought from one of the demonstrations that it was actually intended to be on Town Hall initially, but then you had to move it. It just made more sense to put it on the community center, right? So I'm just saying, in theory, that portion of it could be moved if it had to be.
Right, but that's not the only issue. I mean, as the
Sure.
human service director, the people I have coming in and out, I just don't think it's...
Okay. And then the other thing, too, kind of in respect to that, like you list here about, we rank 49th for elder economic security, and then 61% of older adults living alone have difficulty making ends meet. So is that 61% for all of Massachusetts, or is
Yeah.
that specific to
Yeah,
Norton?
no, that's Massachusetts.
Is that like a good representation of Norton as well?
I think so.
And so I asked that just, and this is just in general, right? We know any sort of project, it's going to be a burden. Like how can that be handled with folks who are already,
As far as,
well, there'll be a
Thinking-
tax increase, right?
right. So one of the things that just got passed was the increase in the senior tax work-off
Work-off,
program. So that's one area. And the other area is the programs I discussed, you know, getting, if people are on the fringe, you know, there may be help that they can receive, whether it's fuel assistance or food assistance or things like that, that may be able to help.
Offset some of the
Offset
costs.
some of that.
Okay.
And I'm more than willing to sit with people and it's not just seniors who are going to be struggling
Right.
with that as well, so it's anybody.
No, I think those are good things to talk about too, and to let people know
Right.
there may be opportunities, because,
Yep.
you know, it could be definitely a point for stress, if nothing else. Okay, thank you, Beth.
Any further
Welcome.
questions?
You had mentioned requesting moving the garage that's there. So I've heard that a few times. Do we know, has that ever been brought to the schools, Mike?
It was.
Was, yeah,
And they said they did a study and it was going to cost like
800,000.
800,000. They came up with a number that I didn't understand.
800,000 to move a garage?
To build
To
a new
build
one.
a space metal garage.
It was fancy.
That's a very fancy
Is
metal
it,
garage.
was that their basic requirements? And then my other question would be, is that something that the building committee can assist with looking into?
Yeah, potentially.
I just worry about safety,
Yeah.
you know, and
No,
and I think I said it at one of the other meetings, you know, it's not, somebody could fall, somebody is going to fall, and it's going to be a liability on the town. I had a gentleman fall last year when he was climbing over the snowbank. You know, luckily he wasn't injured, but you never know, you know?
And Beth, if that building wasn't there, that would also open up some more parking spots for you, right?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, yeah. If that wasn't there, we'd have more parking, and it would just buy us some time until the new facility was constructed, yeah.
So you've, like, I've seen a whole transition in the senior center since you, actually, you and the Veterans Agent have worked together. And for you to describe it as a warm, happy, vibrant place is not how I would have described it. Has it been 7 years? How long have you been there?
5.
5 years. So 5 years, prior to that, I never would have described it as that. So you've done a really good job.
Thank you.
And I understand that you know, work on a very, very tight budget. You have very little space over there. And, you know, I think maybe at our next joint school committee meeting, we could ask them to revisit this, because honestly, I feel like it's the least we can do is to get rid of that
Yeah.
building, to give you a little bit more space.
Just in the
and more
mean,
safety.
right. Oh, another thing I need to say too, sorry, I'm way over my 15 minutes. I just want to do a shout out to, and I don't even remember his name, but our building is going to get painted starting in October sometime by an Eagle Scout.
Oh, great.
So we had some paint that was already donated, and I finally found somebody to put it to good use, so
Are we changing
we're excited.
colors?
I don't think so. No, why would we change?
That'll be the Little Red Schoolhouse.
All right, then.
Anything else?
Thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you. Hey, Mike, can I just ask a quick question? So I think we may have talked about this at one of our, I'm looking at both of you, I guess now I can just say Mike and look in one direction. I think we talked about this at one of our previous meetings about, in the wintertime, making sure that there's some extra attention given to ensure that there's a clear path and a safe path, and it's salted and shoveled. I guess, is that something that we can ask Keith and team to do?
Well, yeah, I think that they do.
Yeah.
They're very competent with that, absolutely. I mean, they can't go onto someone's private property to.
No,
with a
no, but
path,
I
so
mean,
if they're walking between,
Yeah.
you know.
If they're parking behind that
But
structure.
they take extra attention with the senior
Yeah.
center, certainly. Next, on the new business, we have an update from the water and sewer superintendent. How you doing, Frank?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Well, thank you.
I'm sure I have nothing as exciting as Beth did, so. You guys looking for an update on the plant? Honestly, I think it would be a little bit easier to understand if you had some time to take a visit to the plant. Everything I'm going to tell you here is stuff that you may or may not understand, but to see the scope of it, you know, you really have to be there to understand what's going on. So to start off, the second drying bed, which is actually where the water is going to get discharged and the iron and manganese will settle out, has started construction. The spoil pile that's going to be created from this excavation is what's going to be used to level off the property around the existing building to bring it to grade. Once that's completed, then they will actually have the gas company come in, install the gas piping to the building and to the generator. They have flat out refused to do that until it's up to grade because they're concerned that any compaction issues may happen with the vehicles driving over it, which makes perfect sense. So unfortunately, the generator is in, but obviously doesn't have any plumbing going to it right now. Inside, the chemical feed lines that go from one end of the plant to the other, to all the filtrations and to the beds, they have a carrier pipe that there's a line that actually feeds inside that, so it's actually a double wall pipe. So the carrier pipes are in, the lines will be fed through them once all the carrier lines are completed. The process pipe is about 98% done. That's the pipe that goes between any of the pumps in the facility, either to the filter or to the external beds. There are a couple custom spool pieces that have to be made up. Those are what they're waiting for, so basically the bridge needs to be completed. Let's see. The gutters have been installed, but unfortunately no downspouts. Those are custom made, so they're one piece. Those will be installed. They could be installed after I've had this update, but as I know right now, they have not been. As far as the windows, there's a few windows that are going to be around the exterior of the building, up very high. Those have been installed. The translucent panels where there's going to be a solid wall are not installed yet. Basically, that's for temperature. As it has been fairly warm continuously up until last night and possibly today, it's been very warm to work inside the building. So whenever there's a rain event, we have plastic that's put up over there to keep the elements out. But for the most part, it's open to the climate. The doors have been painted. The exterior has been sealed. The largest work that's going to be coming up in the near future is the hatches over the recycle tanks. And those are basically floor hatches, 4x4, they're going to open up. And let's see what else we got. That's basically where we're at with the plant. Again, it doesn't sound like a lot. We're steadily moving forward. There is, the scope of work that's there. I would really love if you guys had some time to come down and do a site tour to see exactly, what we're waiting on, why we're waiting so long, and what's involved with getting everything together. I have changed. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the sequencing we had for the wells to be changed to the plant. Originally, we were going to do what was called our well 4, and then it was going to be well 5 and well 6. Well 4, I had changed originally, had it go out to cleaning. We were very happy with the return we had on well 4 as far as for a specific yield. Although we got back to a number that was very good for the town, it's not enough to meet the minimum requirement to run the plant without it turning on and off continuously. So that doesn't seem like a very good option to us. We want to have a continuous run, make sure everything is working, the analyzes everything to settle out so it'll simulate a normal operation. So our well 5, which is typically our largest production well, unfortunately right now is basically choked off because of the age and the condition that it's in. So after speaking with the contractors and the engineers, we've decided it's best to have well 5 cleaned now that we're getting into the time of year where our demand is significantly lower. Well 5 will be taken offline. The plumbing and pipe work that's in there will be removed, and this plant will have well 5 going to it instead of going back to the distribution system. Well 5 typically comes back around the 600 gallon per minute range, which is completely over that 500 and should be more than enough, I'm told, knock on wood, that we'll have a continuous run on the plant without having to have it turn on and off and cycle, which is definitely not what we're anticipating. At that point, we'll have a partial startup. We'll have what's called substantial completion, where we can actually produce water to the system. Even though it's going to be on a limited basis, there will be partially treated water going to the system from that well 5. At that point, we're looking to turn and go to well 4. This is the well that was just cleaned a few months ago. We're going to do a quick cleaning on it again to see if we can develop it further prior to putting it into the plant. That one then will be transitioned over, so we'll actually have 2 wells going to the plant, which will require another test phase to be done on the plant. This is all per DEP. And there's a pump to waste phase, there's adjustments on the analyzers, making sure everything works, all the lockouts have to be checked. And then lastly, we'll go with well 6 for transition to the plant, and we'll be up and running at 100% capacity. And I have not heard otherwise, that we are still on track for the late fall opening of what's called a substantial completion, where we're actually producing some water to the system. It may not be the 100% based on the cleaning schedule and the traffic that has developed over at 5 and 6. There's multiple things going on at once over at wells 5 and 6. As you know, I've asked to do some research for locating 2 new site wells at 5 and 6 based on the age and the impact that we've had in that one area. It doesn't make sense to try and redevelop a well in the area where it's sat for a very long time. The DEP gives you a 400-foot buffer from the original point source where you can relocate and do another point. And if we come back and have a substantial difference in what we're able to pump from those test wells that we're doing right now, we started on Monday, it would make sense to relocate that well. We could put in a different style of screen where the water actually comes through with a different size opening. The wells that were in years ago were very conservative because there was no treatment plant, so you want it to have the smallest hole possible so the gravel pack does all your filtering for you. In the new wells and the new application, we have the chance to put in a larger screen type, like on the microphone here, so it actually can fit a lot of water through it. The particulates can go through because the plant would actually be doing the job of removing it. That is the long-range look. We will not know exactly how we are until 5 and 6 come back for final testing as far as for what we can remove from the ground on that aquifer.
So Frank, on the, on well 5 with the replacement of the plumbing, that's part of increasing that size too, so that you get more water flow into there?
No, that is only for the internal components. The
Okay.
pump and the motor in well 5 are aged, they're wearing out, it's time to go. On well 4, we were lucky enough, after we did the cleaning, we could reinstall the existing pump and motor, and the contractor said, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 months out of that tops. Well, we're going a little bit longer than that now with our fingers crossed, it's still pumping great. Well 5 is in a situation where they don't recommend taking that out because they think when it comes out it's actually going to fall apart. It's being held together because it's intact the way it is. So we have no option of returning that to service the way it is now, other than purchasing a new pump and motor to install that. And I don't think we're in the position right now we should be wasting any more money on that infrastructure. We should be putting it towards the
A new well.
development of 2 new sites that we're already working on.
Frank,
Yes.
when do we anticipate the best-case scenario for the plant to be 100% operational?
I wish I could say I have an actual map to say exactly when it's going to be. Everything is contingent on the schedule for the company that we have doing the cleaning.
Yep.
And the contractors getting in and removing the existing infrastructure that's there and completing the new. The process that's involved, typically, they're going to come in, they're going to pull the existing pump and well, they're going to do a surge where they actually, it can take a day. They actually basically use a plunger on this large well. It breaks up the gravel that's in the gravel pack, and then they pump that to waste. Once that's clear, they see what they have for the specific yield coming from the well. If they're happy with it and it's actually improved, great. If not, they'll actually add some chemical to it to chemically break up the formation. They'll do a pump to waste, and then they have to do a test until the pH is back to normal levels, knowing that all the acid was removed from the well and that it's safe to go into production. So this is a process, and it can vary depending on how bad the actual gravel pack is around the well. So they usually don't give us a time frame on it. It's kind of a wait and see, and when we get to a certain level and they take multiple samples, they'll come back and look at the water quality, look at the levels of the iron and manganese that are in there, if there is any visible, and then they'll look at the pump per foot in the well. If they believe we're coming back anywhere above 50 to 75% of the original capacity, usually that's when they say, you know what, this is good enough, this is where we're going to leave it. As long as the town agrees, whether it be the primary well operator or the superintendent, that's where they stop. This is usually done on a bid. If you want to produce the well for a longer time, obviously there's an additional cost that's involved.
Thank you. Any other questions?
What are some other challenges we might run into that could delay the time frame?
Staffing.
Oh, how's
Still
that?
working on that. We've made leaps and bounds. We've gone back and forth with the union. We've gone back and forth with the union body, and I believe you guys are actually going to have a discussion about that tonight in executive session of what was proposed and where we are with that. So I don't know any more than you do right now.
Okay, and is the, you mentioned like well 4 and 5 are going to run together. Is that when we're anticipating that the testing will start with the DEP, so it'll run concurrent to the cleaning of the other well?
Testing has to start anytime we put water into that plant. DEP
Okay.
is going to be involved with the sequencing as far as once we transition well 5 and turn it from the distribution to the plant. They'll be involved with that. They're going to want to see and witness some of the testing that goes on. They're going to want to witness the pump to waste, and they're going to want to make sure, obviously, all the chemical analyzers and all the probes and everything, and all the alarm lockouts are working prior to granting any type of approval to go into the system. So there's a process involved with that. If for some reason, unfortunately, one of those systems fail, obviously you start the process over after you do your repair. So there's multiple hurdles we have to jump through, and I wish I could say it's going to be easy, but I really don't know.
Right. And I just have one more question, if I may. Will you give a tour after hours? Like after
sorry,
bus-
what?
Will you give a tour after business hours?
You tell me when.
Okay.
Any other questions, Jack?
One question, Frank. How long is the DEP testing? We've heard a couple different durations.
Right.
It's weeks
That-
or days.
The DEP stipulation, the way it's written, is a 32-hour pump test if you have everything going into the well. So if we had just one source going to that treatment plant from one well, you do a 32-hour pump test, they'd be happy with it. Sometimes they grant approval prior to that, seeing that everything's been working for 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever the number is. Where we have a staggered entrance to this, each time you put a new source on, it requires new testing and making sure that the blended system now is actually working correctly, and that your influent and the effluent is actually working, and everything has to match. So we're looking at 3 potential startups, whether they be shortened over time because the other 2 went perfectly fine. That's completely up to the DEP representative that we have that comes out to approve the plant.
Great, thank you.
Anything further?
Mr.
Ms.
Chairman,
Steele?
thank you for this update. So I just, there's so much in this that I don't understand, but I do understand that it's hard for you to, pinpoint a date when you'd be up and running. Can you conservatively give us an estimate of, do you think this is going to be?
Before the winter?
Yeah, like before this winter, next spring, like conservatively, like when you said late fall, I was like, is it this fall or is it next fall?
Originally, the original date that was on the contract was August, end of August, early September. At the beginning, when we realized, so when I came in and realized that that substantial startup date is the worst possible time for any town. It's the highest demand, it's the lowest water. So we gave a 2-month no-cost extension at that time. That was both for the issues of the startup date and the issues of having 0 staff in place, and no union negotiations had even started at that point to create new positions. That was given, so now that pushes us out to the end of November, early December. We are still on track, as I have not heard any different from the contractor, for that substantial completion, which would be at least 1 well going in, and they're still tracking for November. Mid-November is what they're hoping for. Barring everything falls into place.
And that's called the substantial completion?
Right.
And then after the substantial completion is done,
When all 3 are in there, then you're going to have your final completion. That would be 100% going into the system. There may be still some system work to be done as far as tidying up the exterior of either well for any of the site work that was done. I know we have some requirements. We have to meet with Jennifer that can go on for 2 years, especially depending on, you have to wait for two full cycles of grass cuttings before you can remove the straw wattles for runoff. So obviously, we're not going to grow grass in the winter, so that's going to push it out on that. But as far as producing the water, I would say we should have partial water going into that November or December.
and then would you say with all the other components, within a year after that, we would have the final completion, or could it even?
I would say it's
extend
going to be
further
sooner than that.
Sooner than that.
Barring some major, infrastructure deficiency that we don't know about while they're doing the transition, which nothing really kind of stands out right now. The buildings, everything that is there structure-wise is perfectly fine. We're just replacing everything on the inside, stuff that you don't see by going outside of the building, as far as the pumps, the controls, the variable frequency drive that'll run the motor, and well 5 typically right now has what's called a motor with a right angle drive. So basically, this is the oldest well in town. It doesn't have a generator. It actually has an engine that's out of a diesel tractor. It was converted to natural gas. So it has a gearbox that goes to the well. So you could in the worst-case scenario, you could pump water to the town, but now you can't treat it because it doesn't have a generator to run the electrical pumps, which do the chemical feed. So that well has been, an issue for some time now, and knowing that the plant was going to go online and that we were going to get a generator there, it made no sense to spend any money on an upgrade, where we have generators at our pump stations for backup at our storage facilities and the other wells. So that's the type of work that has to be done inside these small buildings, as far as removing that tractor motor, the right angle drive, installing new generators and wiring and stuff. So each building has its own, unique characteristics that have to be overcome.
And we have a lot riding on this well. And you're doing a great job. I appreciate all your efforts and the explanation tonight. But the big question is, what percentage of our brown water issues do you think this well will actually take care of?
This well, when this well and the other 3 wells go online and the water leaving the plant, it will have levels of iron and manganese that you will not notice in your drinking water glass. The issue that you run into there is you're only fixing one part of the problem that's been like that for 60 to 80 years. There is issues with settlement in the pipes as far as for iron and manganese that's been pumped into the system. And we're going to obviously hit the flushing program as hard as we possibly can based on staff. And, we're looking at, I believe one of the commissioners at the last meeting had mentioned probably 2 full flush cycles before you may notice a major difference. And that was from Mansfield's own point of view because they had the same issues over there. And after doing 2 full cycles, which is a spring flush and a fall flush, so that basically is a whole year, that's when they noticed they had some major improvements to some of the areas that were typical concern areas.
And with your experience in this, is it reasonable for us to expect that and not anticipate having to replace a lot of our pipes?
There are a lot of pipes that still need to be replaced based on size and age and type of material that they're made out of. Not specifically because they create the dirty water, but they create a traffic jam. If you have some larger pipes in town where other times that have been replaced, typically they're done with something larger than a 6-inch pipe. So you're going from a small pipe to a large pipe that creates a settling basin because the water speed slows down. So now your larger pipe, even though it may be new, usually has more debris sitting in the bottom of it because it had a chance for the water to slow down and everything to settle out. Think of it as iced tea in the glass. You stir it up, some of it will settle to the bottom. Same thing happens with the iron and manganese. It's heavy enough to settle out of solution and sit in the pipes. I'm sorry about the analogy. I know you don't like it.
No, it's not that I don't like it, that you did one. I was waiting.
I have a few more. So the goal is to have a system with very similar pipe size and pipe type. That is your best possible scenario for water quality. What we plan on doing as part of the master plan that I've been working on, we have problem areas that are targeted. One of them is Pine Street. The section of Pine Street from where well 1 is, which is around 167 Pine, up to the intersection of Pine and Plain is scheduled for replacement. That's actually one of our oldest pipes in town. It's unlined cast iron. So if you think about what happens, you let water sit in iron pot outside, it creates water quality issues. So just the water moving through that pipe alone for that 6,100 feet creates an issue regardless of what way the water flows. Somebody on that street or in that general area at some point in time can see discolored water. No fault of anybody going out doing a hydrant flush or the fire department using anything. It's just because of that material is still in the ground and still in use. We have some other areas in town, Main Street. There's dual mains here. We have cast iron on this side and a mix of other different pipes for when repairs have been done. So anytime you transition from a different size pipe or a different type of pipe, you create turbulence in that one area where the transition is, and it slowly scours away at the pipe and again, creates a water quality issue. So that's what we're addressing in our master plan, not typically because we feel that they're a danger to the public as far as they have a break every other month, which we did on Reservoir Street for a while, and that's why that one was addressed. Basically, it's a water quality issue is what we're targeting on our master plan for replacements.
And Frank, if I remember from that public info session, that's about, it potentially could be 40% of the pipes.
I believe that's the total left that still needs some
be
type of
analyzed.
attention, whether it be replacement, could be cleaning and lining if the pipe is adequately sized, just the wrong material. For instance, Leonard Street. is a 12-inch cast iron pipe. It is lined, but the flow going through that pipe, because there are practically no residents on there or no buildings right now, is pretty minimal. So that actually is one of our dirtier pipes in town, and unfortunately it's sandwiched between populated areas, between our well location and obviously the main road. So anytime there is a increase in flow, you can see a disturbance there because it doesn't typically move on that street. So that's one of the stretches that we're looking at possibly trying some type of cleaning, whether it be mechanical cleaning or ice pigging, just to see what type of results we get. We can get a before and after camera of the pipe to see exactly what it is, or we may have to dig down and actually physically cut a section out to see just what type of buildup we have, and now then you'll see the before and after results.
Thank you.
That's all part of that money that was approved at town meeting for water cleaning. It's a step in the right direction. We may not like the results that we get out of finding, one way or another, and each area may need to be addressed differently based on the impact it has, whether it be traffic or residential impacts. With the cleaning and lining, you're typically digging up every few thousand feet and opening up the road there, as opposed to digging a full trench and doing a replacement. But there is still a substantial cost involved. It's not the full cost, but maybe 50 to 75% of the cost to replace it. So you really got to weigh your options as far as what way to go, and also look at the budget and what you can do.
Anything further?
If you guys want to reach out to me and we can set up a time to get down there.
Frank, what's your phone number?
Sure, 508-958-5001. And I can give you the office number if it's easier that way. 508-285-0282 is my direct line.
0282?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
No
Appreciate the update.
Any questions? You all good?
Oh, good.
Great. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well.
Sure thing.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a discussion with the Permanent Building Committee regarding the Fall Town Meeting. Donna, do you want to call your meeting to order? I see you have a quorum out there.
Yes, I'd like to call the Permanent Building Committee to order with 4 members present and 1 absent. Thank you. This evening, I'd like to address some correspondence that the committee sent to the Selectmen concerning the Fall Town Meeting. And in that correspondence, we had asked that under Article 11, the town consider purchasing the property that is currently located between the existing Town Hall Fire Station and the police station. It has come to the committee's attention that that property is now available and could be discussed for purchase. And the committee discussed it quite at length, and we feel that, if possible, this is a strategic purchase for the town of Norton that would enable us to have a municipal complex with all of our municipal facilities in one location: police, fire, town hall, Council on Aging Community Center, DPW, and library, in a single municipal campus. So this was a piece of property that we had looked at previously when we were discussing the Town Hall Council on Aging construction. However, it was not available at that time, and we've been advised by the town manager that it is available. So we would like to recommend that the board amend the fall town meeting, special town meeting warrant Article 11 to be revised to include the necessary funding to purchase this property, and at the same time to amend DVBW, who was the architectural firm that we use for the feasibility study town hall portion, to prepare a conceptual layout of a unified municipal center, and that we're recommending the board include the cost of the purchase of property to be negotiated at a later date, plus an additional $70,000 for DVBM to prepare the conceptual layout and graphical information for a unified municipal campus. The other item that the committee discussed was possibly on the fall town meeting article warrant number 14, as it exists for a site selection survey for a new town hall community center. And we would like for you to take that funding from the 1.3 million that can exist already appropriated for the town hall COA project. The $70,000 as identified in the warrant article is for the building committee's townwide envelope study that we will be addressing this year that was voted at a previous town meeting. And that $70,000 is still in need by the committee. It is our desire to complete an envelope study of all municipally owned buildings, town and school, which could then be used as a basis for a organized capital improvement project for the maintenance of municipal buildings throughout the coming years. So that is our request. Any questions?
Mike, so if you were made aware that this parcel is available, what are they looking for in terms of a price
Million.
for an acre and a half? Have we had any initial discussions with the landowner, other than that it's $1 million?
They were at 1.7 originally, and now they're down to $1 million.
Any further questions?
I have many questions. First, you were talking, and I was trying to read through this as you were going. So, for clarity, one of these points is just the $70,000 that you initially requested the last time you were here in front of us for the building study. You still want that money for the envelope study, I'm sorry.
The envelope study was appropriated several town meetings ago.
Right,
We want that to remain.
okay,
We want the money for the site selection to come out of the 1.3. We don't want the $70,000 for the envelope study to be used for anything other than the envelope study.
and was it wrong? Was the article written wrong? Is that why that's in here?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. So, the site selection study, that would still include you guys going through an evaluation of multiple sites to determine, like, cost, the buildings that we would want there, like, it's not, is it just to this one property that you're talking about now?
No, there are two articles that are basically in play. Article 11, which would be the purchase of property to complete a municipal campus. And I can't stress how strategic this property is to create that municipal vision for the town of Norton. And then Article 14 is for a site selection for the Town Hall Council on Aging. If Article 11 were to pass, we would no longer need Article 14. But if Article 11 fails, we need Article 14 in order to go forward for site selection for a Town Hall Council on Aging.
Just, rather than use numbers, because they change all the time.
Okay.
So Article 11,
Preference,
that, I understand that part, but the other part, appropriating 70,000 out of the 1.3 is going to be on the special.
Yes. Both of these, I believe, are on the special, are they not?
No, one is going to be on the original annual, and the 70,000 coming out of the funds previously appropriated will be on the special. So you're not talking about two $70,000 articles, you're talking about one $70,000.
Yes.
And
And one purchase
so
of
article-
property.
The other article will be move no action, the article that you still want the 70,000 for the building envelope study. That article will be no action. And Article 6 on the special will be the article to appropriate the 70,000.
Okay, as you said, the numbers are fluid for town meeting articles, but yes, that is the gist.
Okay.
The envelope study is to remain.
Yep.
And the request for the 70 for the site selection would be there in case the purchase of property did not succeed.
And Donna, is it the opinion of the building committee that this land is going to work for or is it a convenience? Do we feel strongly that this, because the last thing we want to do is purchase the land and then say,
Well, the land would be purchased for municipal use to begin with.
right?
So not necessarily, the way the committee voted narrowed to those two. This was our second choice during the first round of sites for the Council on Aging and Town Hall. The Elm Street location was number one, and this was the second site. So this is a site that the committee has looked at.
Architects as well?
Yeah, architects as well. We have looked at the setbacks, the location, the site work, how the buildings would be adjusted. But we're asking that you purchase the property for municipal use, and then
Right.
we go from there.
When you guys looked at this property last time around, and you may have said, I may have missed it, does this take care of both the community center and the town hall?
Yes, it does. There's space behind this existing town hall for one building, and this particular vacant site would accommodate the second.
So I'm sorry. So is it the committee's thinking that if the town were to purchase this property, then this is the way we would go? Like you guys wouldn't look at any of the other sites that are out there?
If the Board of Selectmen chooses to go forward to purchase this site, hopefully with the knowledge that this was something the building committee had looked at previously and was in favor of, we would hope that you all would look to using the land for Council on Aging or a town hall with the second building going behind this existing one. But that, of course, would be up to the board.
I think from my point of view, that is our big problem, the lack of space, so lack of buildings, so I don't know why we would look at purchasing property unless we were going to address that issue, right? So, I don't disagree with you guys saying that it's a strategic piece of property, and it does sound nice that we'd have like a municipal campus, all of that works. I think I would feel better if I could see what this would look like. My biggest fear is that we purchase a property, it sounds like a great idea, but then we find out, we're not going to be able to get the second building on there, and then we're going to deal with.
That's my exact
You guys
concern.
didn't look into this, why are we going through this again? So I want to make this as successful and painless for your committee and our board. And I'm not sure, is there a rush to have this all done by the fall town meeting? Is there any reason why we couldn't even call for a special once we had the architects look at it, once we got into negotiations with the guy, I can't say this on it, once we negotiated with the seller.
I do have, I've been in communication with DBVM for the past couple of days. It's very hard to say. And I do have their files on that piece of property and the rear of this existing building. So the building committee does have that paperwork. It was not fleshed out to the extent that it could be, since we turned our attention to Elm Street, and that's where the efforts went. But there are preliminary look-sees, which is a horrible statement, way to turn a phrase. But, we do have, it has begun, and it can definitely be continued very successfully for those two pieces of property.
Yeah, from my point of view, I think I like where you guys are going. I'm just afraid of going too far into this without seeing specifics. So my question to our board would be, when does this vote have to be made by the town meeting? Is it tonight that we have to vote on this? How much time do we have?
No, you don't. You don't have to vote on it until the night of town
Town meeting,
meeting.
yeah.
You want October
Okay, so
21st.
is that enough time for your committee to bring some
Yeah.
conceptual designs to us, or?
That would be way too fast for us to bring conceptual designs. I think, we did have a feasibility study. We do know somewhat of how the buildings will look. And we did have those layouts when we were looking at the final two pieces of property, this piece and Elm Street. So we're not even fairly sure, we are sure that both would fit there. what the building committee would like to encourage the Board of Selectmen to do right now is to purchase the property next door and get that into a municipal campus setting so that the town controls what goes next to the town hall between the fire town hall and the police station, so that we do have that opportunity in the future.
I would personally be reluctant to spend $1 million just to, I know where you're coming from in that, but, I mean, the last thing we need to do is, like you said, and what my primary concern is, we spend $1 million for, now we have a municipal empty spot of land, or put something less useful there, so, and I think that's where you were going with
That's where I
that.
was going. So, and the building committee, you got, sorry.
No, I'm done.
So your recommendation is actually separate from the buildings tonight. As the building committee is coming forward, not really representing the buildings at all, just asking us to buy this property. And we'll deal with the buildings later.
We're somewhat asking you to give us the opportunity to put a building there. We think it's a perfect spot, but we do know that there are steps that have to be taken. We would very much love to have a municipal campus. I think it would be wonderful, and it could do wonders for the town of Norton, the way the departments interact. You've heard the Council on Aging Director works with the Veterans Agent, who works with, the Recreation Department. Seniors go between both departments. It's just perfect. We can't move forward without this piece of property towards that end. We know it would be a good piece of property. We're asking you to consider to purchase it for municipal use.
So you just want to see a sketch that shows, you don't need anything elaborate, a sketch that shows the buildings will fit. So if we can, I mean,
I need some
That the
sort
project
of-
will
I
be
need
successful
sort
there,
of
rather than just fitting. I need to know
assurance
that.
Right.
This is a possibility. I mean, I don't disagree that that is a nice piece of property.
Without question.
But I don't want to go into this blindly.
No.
The committee
And
knows
I-
more about it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you guys on this. So, the last time that you were here, Donnie, we spoke about, to make sure we didn't get in the same situation as last time, we spoke about presenting the town with options.
Right.
Right? So by not doing the site selection and determining, are there other areas where potentially we could put this, we're tunneling ourselves into one location. What I am concerned with is that we get to this location, we find out it's a couple $1 million for grading, or there's something else that we didn't consider. So I would like that information first, to Mike's point, before we spend $1 million. I mean, I think the vision is spot on, but it's one of those trust but verify. I want to make sure that this is the right decision for us. And I'll go back to, I still think that the townspeople deserve to see some options.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that this has presented itself. It was our second choice. And once you get into a construction project, you always have site work to do.
Of course.
And that's included in the cost of construction. I think,
So
Mark can answer.
I understand.
I'm sorry, could you just identify
I'm
yourself?
sorry, Mark Gershman from the Permanent Building Committee.
Thank you.
I understand the hesitation to spend a lot of money on this parcel, not knowing the specifics, if the buildings are going to fit, how much site work. I guess the committee's concern is the architect that did the town hall feasibility study, I believe their contract has no more money in it. They've expended their contract limit. So is there a way we could, at this fall town meeting, extend their contract to look at a master plan for a municipal center complex and look at parking and access and egress and where the buildings would go?
Yeah.
And then,
I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I would rather do
makes
that, too.
sense to me. I'd rather spend,
so we can move forward
Right.
step by step.
Because
presenting what the committee
Yeah, I know, I know, but-
No, and we appreciate that, we certainly do, and I think it's been some good discussion. I think the other thing too is, I know that like we all want to rush and we want to get this, like it's down to, a cost that we haven't seen previously, but then I'll throw back, who's going to buy a piece of parcel like that
Right.
that's sitting in between a town hall and a police station, right? Like you typically, it's not like it's a hot ticket item. So I think the risk is low for that site not being an option for us to purchase in the future, and I really would like to see a little bit more before we decide for that money. And the question that wasn't asked is, how would we fund the purchase anyway?
That would be up to the Board of Selectmen.
Because last piece of land that we had, that we thought everything was going to be all well and good on, turned out to be a little bit, a little bit, not perfect. So I think we have a little bit of caution going into this. But again, I do agree that we think that your vision is probably the most likely outcome, and we just want to have a good understanding of what it is we're purchasing, if it works, before we lay out the cash. That
Makes sense.
I think that's a great
I can pull my
representation.
committee.
Can I?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if town meeting votes to authorize you to buy that property,
we don't have to.
you don't have to buy that property. So, if you need more evidence from the architects or whatever, you could have time to see that before you actually go.
But I also
Buy the
think that,
property.
while that's true, if we go in front of town meeting and ask for the money to do it, and after everything that happened on Elm Street, I would imagine that the folks there are going to be a little more,
Well, we'll see what we can get before that.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we could put, make the purchase and sale contingent on passing environmental screening, whether it's an ASTM Phase 1 site survey or something else, to make sure that we're not buying another contaminated piece.
So again, we want to work with the board. We think municipal center complex is a great idea, town hall out front, community center in the back, but we want to, get there together. We definitely need these two buildings, so.
yep, no, agreed, I couldn't agree with that more.
Mr. Chairman, one other aspect of this is we need to be confident that the decision to buy this piece of property is the right decision in the chance that moving forward with the debt exclusion fails. And then we have the land and the money
Correct.
to put a building on it. So that's
Yeah.
another thing that we need, when we're looking at this, we need to make sure we
Right.
really want this piece of property, because we may be stuck with it if we don't get the override, the debt exclusion to pass.
Well, and I think that's why it's important that people have options, right, to choose on the land, because there could be something that increases the cost of building there versus maybe another
$1 million
piece.
parcel.
Right, yeah,
I mean, so we're already $1 million ahead of where we were
right.
in the last phase. Any further questions or discussion?
We just clarify where we stand with the articles, because I think there was a lot of back and forth, and
Right.
if the site selection is on the special, then there's a very strong possibility that that would get considered prior to the potential purchase of the land. So making those contingent on one another they're happening out of sequence
Okay.
to the way I
The way it was
previously thought they were
explained to
gonna.
us, it would be, the sequence would be reversed.
That's all right, because we had Article 14, which was the building envelope study being repurposed. I thought we could rewrite that to get you the 70K you needed.
Yes, definitely.
So is that not possible, Mike?
No. 'Cause, and if this money, the 70,000, if it works the way you're saying, if we don't expend that money, then it would be repurposed later on
Okay.
at another town meeting.
And that's for the site, the site survey, right?
Right.
To evaluate. I mean, it sounds like we want that to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Any other question?
So there's two pieces, right? There's the site survey, and then there's also getting additional funds to contract with DBVM to do more feasibility and concept studies
Right.
for the properties that, whether it's the one that's under discussion or others that come up with the site selection.
That
correct?
that would be part of the 70,000.
Is it part of the 70 or an additional?
No, that would be
We were
additional.
thinking that too, Mike.
Okay.
We were thinking that, we'd need to extend DBVW's
Yeah.
contract
EDBW.
for an amount. We need the 70,000 for the site selection. And we need the original, the 70 that was
Bless you.
incorrectly taken from the envelope study to remain in the envelope study.
Correct.
So what do we have coming up for October 21st? Do we have all three of those?
So, no, you'd have to make a decision. Right now, on the special town meeting warrant, there's an article authorization to expend $70,000 of the funds appropriated under Article 12 of the October 23rd, 2017 town meeting for the cost of architectural services and all other incidental and related costs for Town Hall and Senior Center. Now, if you want more than $70,000, then let me know.
So that would be for both, like the master plan and the
Right.
And the
separate,
contract extension,
under one article?
and the envelope study remains.
Right.
But there would be no funds for a site selection.
No,
he's
that would
saying
all be
That's-
under
that's-
this.
Yeah.
It's all in one
They
article.
just have to give it a different, if they need more than 70,000, then let
They
me
have to change the article as initially.
just change the
given to you.
number.
We have to vote that tonight?
Do we have the special town meeting list?
You should, do you have the list?
I don't have the list.
We have one for the annual. I'm not seeing one.
I
right
didn't,
here.
I didn't see one for the annual either, actually.
I'll make a copy.
I have one for the annual. You have one?
Well, I've got the actual warrant for the,
Yes, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
yeah, solar.
For a master plan number.
Anything further?
I'm still confused a bit on the article phrasing. It'd be helpful if it was there
Yeah.
to read.
Guys have anything?
Nope.
No.
Just
We're
wanted,
good.
no,
We're
you
just-
did.
We're just,
No, everyone,
So just to confirm, next steps is, Donna, you will work with the permanent building committee and, or Mike, to get the article language updated
Yes,
appropriately so that we account for all three of these
all
things.
three of those things.
and we can discuss that further at our next, put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay,
Because we're not under a date constraint to vote tonight.
no. But just keep the property in mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Do you guys need to adjourn your meeting?
Oh, yeah, good.
Yes. Move to, I'll accept a motion to adjourn the building committee meeting. Second? All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna?
All right, moving on, we have a review of the, actually, we should wait for Mike for this.
Well, that's what we need.
Yeah, that was quick. So the next item on the agenda is a review of the October 21st, 2019 special town meeting article list and fall annual town meeting warrants.
Okay.
Mike?
On the special town meeting, right now, there's 7 articles, but one will be coming off, so there'll only be 6. And the list of articles, bylaw amendment, Chapter 5, Administration of Government, annual election, and that would be an article to set the election for Saturday, the town election every year. And then there's a bylaw amendment to change the name of the Board of Selectmen to Select Board. That would be Article 2. Article 3 is a charter amendment to change anywhere where it says Board of Selectmen to Select Board. Article 4 is a charter amendment to change the name of the Industrial Development Commission to the Economic Development Commission. Number 5 would be any collective bargaining agreements. 6 would be what we just talked about, the authorization to expend funds appropriate under Article 12 of the October 23rd, 2017 town meeting for the cost of architectural services and all other incidental and related costs for Town Hall and Senior Center. And 7 is going to be removed.
Mike, can I ask you about number 6? And I don't think we talked about this. Doubling that value, is this coming out of that $1.3 million?
Yes.
Okay, so we have funds that have
Yeah.
already been appropriated?
Any questions on the special town meeting articles?
You said 7's coming off.
Yes.
What about the warrant?
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the collective bargaining agreement again?
That would be for any collective bargaining agreements that are settled. I mean, we're going to be talking about one tonight, so hopefully that'd be on there.
Okay, thank you.
And you have a draft, still waiting for town council review of the annual warrant. And I don't know if you wanted to vote on any articles tonight, or if you want to have time to review this, and then at the next meeting, vote on articles.
I think we'll move it to the next meeting.
Okay.
Give us time to just take a look, and when will town council have their review back on?
Probably the middle of next week.
Let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Any questions on the warrant?
Oh, waiting till next meeting, right?
Yeah, to give us some time to review and make sure that nothing egregious comes back from town
And
council.
if you think of anything in the meantime, just, any questions you have, just email me.
Mike, on the articles in here that are presented by citizens, I guess, the...
Petition.
The petitions, yeah. Will we get some background on that
Yeah.
prior to having to vote on it?
Two or three of them are planning articles, so planning board will be
Paul will come.
coming back to you with a report. And then the other one will have the petitioner, and it's for a space needs study, if I'm saying that, I don't have it open right now, on the schools, so that we'll have that petitioner come in and talk to you.
Okay, so we'll have that.
But the others are all
information
planning.
Prior to having to,
Yep.
okay.
Any further discussion?
I just have a process question. So when we vote on these, we'll have those groups in front of us prior to voting?
Yes,
Yeah, or,
where necessary.
yeah, when necessary.
Okay. And we expect to do that next week, or next meeting, I'm sorry?
Next meeting, the meeting after, yeah. Hopefully, we should be able to knock it all out next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, under old business, discussion and/or vote to authorize the town manager to sign the solar purchase agreement with Next Grid Patriots LLC.
We've talked about this previously. Daniel Serber from Next Grid is here.
Great.
And if anyone has any questions, this is for the solar facility that's being built on off of Plain Street. And this would, Daniel can explain it better than me, be a solar power purchase agreement between the town and Next Grid that would, 3 cents a kilowatt.
Yes, so this is our fifth time here talking about this. The first time was in March. I've been here, this is my third time, and we've had another guy named Haskell come and talk about it as well. It's actually a fairly simple thing. So we built a solar facility. We haven't built it yet. There's a solar facility we will be building at 54 Plain Street that was passed by the planning board in April. We submitted it to the Massachusetts SMART program as a community solar facility, a low-income community solar facility that allows us to give a discount in power to an anchor tenant, which the town of Norton is what we stipulated, and that was part of our permit, that we would work with you guys, for you guys to be our anchor tenant, and the rest will be the low-income residents of Norton. Since we got permitted in April, we've permitted a bunch of other projects in Massachusetts, so we can actually give the town a discount on their full power bill. So right now, on average, the town uses 4,500,000 kilowatt hours per year, and we can give them a discount on all their power at for about 2.5 cents for an annual savings of $112,500. Over the life of our solar project, that's $2.2 million in power savings for the town. There's really no obligation to the town. You don't have to do anything, just be our community solar anchor. I think part of the holdup has been it's simple. And people don't trust things that are simple, but really, there's not a lot to say about it. It's just part of the SMART program that was passed by the state. So, we'd really like to just get a vote, because part of the funding from the state that goes to us is based on us getting this signed. So we're having to put off some building stuff because it's contingent on our bank funding. and our tax equity to get this dealt with.
Any questions or discussion? Jack, this
Sorry.
Conway.
Just a minor thing, on your table of contents, there's an error. You have bookmarks not defined, so.
Oh,
there's-
sorry about
Or
that.
anything gets signed, that should get cleaned up.
Sure. And it's, right, this vote, Mike, is just a permission for you to work with us to sign this and get it right by you guys.
Yeah, that's what the vote is, to authorize you to negotiate. So.
That's my only comment. I think everything else I've said is very straightforward.
Before, my only concern is on the limitation of liability to contract proceeds. I'd rather see that be made to collectible insurance. Because, I mean, I'm not entirely sure what the value of the contract is, but I'm sure any damages that would result from the contract would far exceed what the...
I guess I'm not.
And where is that?
So it's in the limitation of liability.
Are you talking about a specific clause in here?
Yep. So there is, it is in, it's on page, no, not page number, so it's section 13C2.
13C2, actual damages?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't figure out what damages or liability would be possible at all for a community solar deal. I'm sure we can just,
I'll get
You get the
Mike's
change, yeah.
suggested change to you.
And it's every contract I see on these things, we always want to get that out. It's a typical.
Sure.
Yep.
as long as we can vote on this and then get it out, later, then it would be fine by me.
Ms. Dally?
The additional discount that you talked about, the 2.5 cents, is that already in here?
So it's 3 cents for our project,
Yep.
and then we can give you 2.5 cents for everything else you guys use.
But is that already stated
No,
in
so
here?
the PPA is for, this is what we need to move forward now, the 3 cents for
Mhm.
our project that's in town, and then we can add on to that at a later time.
So from a paperwork perspective, how does that get added on?
I would just come back with
With an
another
amendment?
for the rest of the bill.
So what we're voting tonight is for the town manager to negotiate and then to execute the contract. So it's not going to be exactly,
Right, but that would be put in this
Before
prior
he
to Mike
sign-
signing?
yes.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure Mike's making a note of that.
any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to authorize the town manager to negotiate and sign the solar purchase agreement with Next Grid Patriots LLC.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second. Any further discussion?
Anything from the audience? or-
Anything from the,
Oh, I do have, I do have a comment. So Next Grid Patriots LLC is who owns the land, and who owns the actual project is called Next Grid Redwoods LLC. So we'd have to change that name.
so I would amend your motion to,
Yeah,
okay.
amend to
Yep.
reflect that name change.
Okay, so motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous.
Good?
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in. Discussion on remote participation. I know we've kind of kicked this around the block a few times. I personally I'm not a big fan of remote participation. I think for many other boards and committees, I think it's okay. I think for this one, I'm not in favor of it, but I'm not sure or who wanted this on the agenda.
I asked for it to be on the agenda as an additional discussion, and I think that we actually received some mail as well from Laura Parker on this. So, two things. I think our role first is to say, do we approve this for the town, right, for the committees and things like that? So, a couple of things I wanted to talk about, and I asked Jen to print out some information for you guys. I took a look at some of the other policies that were written. I think when we last talked about this, Mary, you had mentioned a policy. So I went through the policies just to see, is it something that we actually have to write a separate policy, or could we go by the guidelines that are already within the open meeting regulations? So two main things that I noticed. So the open meeting law regulation has been updated since most of the other policies have been created. So what we were looking at from KP Law from 2012 has been updated in the regs. One of the areas talks about what are some reasons, the reasons why you couldn't have remote participation. So they have excluded the specific reasons, like it was personal illness, and let me just find this printout that Jen did for us. Does anybody see it in their packet? I can't find it now either, and I swear I saw it earlier.
Here we go.
What's it
Open meetings, office.
Oh,
of the
it's
Attorney
in my
General.
pile.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so, let me find this. Of course, we don't have page numbers on here. There's something, section 5, I'll find it here.
It's towards the back end,
Is it?
but it references another piece of code.
Okay. So it's on the last printed page, on the front of it, it's under section 5, permissible reason for remote participation. So they've changed this, rather than saying the reasons of personal illness, emergency, et cetera, they changed it to read that you can have remote participation, only physical attendance would be unreasonably difficult. So they've kind of opened that up further from the initial guidance that we got back in 2012. The other thing, the reason why I asked to discuss this is because if we decide to move forward with the policy, one of the things that the other towns have included in theirs, so I looked at 3, one from Hopkinton, Linfield, and Northfield, and I think that you should have those in your packets as well. There are two things. One is, some of them define the applicability. I don't know that we specifically have to, like, they'll say that we adopt it for all elected boards, committees, and commissions, or elected and appointed. I think the open meeting law really addresses that already, to say who can use it. You know, if you fall under open meeting law regulations, then you have the opportunity for remote participation. But what they all had that is not in the OMO regs is they have an item about costs, saying that if there are any costs associated to remote participation, say, for example, somebody calls in and there's some long-distance fees, that the cost will be absorbed by the person, not by the town. So I don't know if we feel in this environment with unlimited long-distance cell phone that that's even something we need to entertain.
Yeah, I was going to say, if the connection is long-distance fees, they can't make it because they're in 1983.
Right, well, so, and I bring that up because then I think if we feel comfortable with that, I really think that we should,
Or maybe
I don't know
get
that we need a specific policy on it. I think that we should just recommend the guidance, the regulations as they're written in the open meeting law.
Anybody have any?
Yeah, I think it makes sense to at least enable the various boards and committees to selectively opt in or out.
Yep.
By default, I would have everybody opt it out and make them opt in to do this. It's not a requirement, it's not a mandate, if it gets adopted.
And Mike, I see there's a Polycom conference phone up there. I mean, one of my hesitations on this is that I work for a company and we do a lot of meetings over something called Zoom, and everyone has a problem. We don't have a single meeting, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this equipment, and every time there's a problem, it doesn't. So I do agree that I think that we should let the boards choose. I think when it comes to this one, I would be fervently against it.
So it's funny that you say that because I have the exact opposite experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I work from home. Everything I do is virtual.
Yeah, I was talking about the conference bridges and the
Right, and
the Zoom meetings.
I mean, I've been managing events for a couple decades,
Yeah.
and we do everything on a conference call, right? Like, there's an emergency, you have life safety involved, like, there's not an issue. So I think before we decide, I think we should see how the technology works and if there are issues. And there is, the stipulation within the open meeting law that, on how to address that, right? And certainly, I think every board has the right to choose if they want to vote to do it. under the guidelines that are established now. I mean, I think our job is to set that direction on approving that, and then I think we take it up separately on whether or not we want it for the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah,
But
no,
I certainly see a difficult challenge, especially, not for smaller groups not being able to hold meetings or have the representation that they need, to make sure everybody's there. And I can tell you, certainly we had a meeting when I was traveling and out of state, and I would have loved to have been on a conference call to hear what was going on and be engaged in that. So I think of it as perspective of what are the benefits to other groups, and I think that's what we have to decide initially.
Great.
Are we able to vote on this tonight? 'Cause it doesn't say discussion or vote.
Well, I think you could have a discussion and then vote the next meeting.
Yeah. I hate to be a stickler, but, I know. I've met one or two on the moderator side.
I like this part and this one.
I just want to tell you, the Massachusetts Moderators Association, which, by the way, if you ever have, trouble sleeping, just come to a Massachusetts Moderator Association meeting or something, but they are currently studying remote participation at town meetings, which I would not be in favor of, and it's an idea that some towns have done along the idea of, well, hey, if you go but you work nights or you do, I mean, all the arguments. You don't need to rehash all the arguments there. I worry about setting a policy that, even though, like you said, boards can do at least somewhat what they want, I worry about setting a policy that talks about remote participation. I have no problem with anybody on a committee setting up the communications and listening to the meeting, being part of it. I do have a problem with them voting through direct participation. And part of that is, it's like, I've been yelled at over the phone, and I've been yelled at in person. I can tell you that it's much harder to ignore people when you're being argued with in person than it is, over the phone or even teleconferencing. I know you're not setting the goal, but you are setting the tone. And it would be very confusing if the board, in my opinion, it would be very confusing if the board agreed to, say, yeah, sure, it's okay, and then didn't do it. That would be kind of like, whoa, I don't understand you. It's a good idea for everybody else. And I think it also, some of the boards, and I'm going to say a board, and I don't mean anything towards them personally. I'm just picking a board that would be in any town, like a zoning board of appeals or, something like that. That's the kind of board where it could have more impact, actually, than it could have at a Board of Selectmen's meeting or anything like that. But mostly, I just wanted to tell you that it is something. I just got an email about it the other day that, believe it or not, they are talking about, and I don't think most of the moderators in Massachusetts are in favor of remote participation. Matter of fact, remote participation seems to be what town meeting is almost about, in some of these cases.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to know that that's even being studied, and it's all done to try to make it, if remote participation with town meeting would be to make it easier for the voters. And it's the same thing basically on a committee, it makes it easier. And there are a lot of good reasons to do it, but I would just tell you that it's trickling down or trickling up. I don't know, I guess it depends which way you look at it. And I would be very careful before you cast something that makes it look like the town is saying yes or no and, doing that. But that was all I just wanted to say.
Yeah.
So, Bill, if you can stay there for a second. Sure. It's interesting that you brought that up, because there was one of the towns who they specifically, so while the OML regulations talk about public bodies, right, so it's appointed, I mean, it's specific to who can do it, it's not the public, but one of the towns actually in their policy said this does not include public participation, like townspeople participation, so we could always approach it that way and be more specific in the guidance, so that should it be opened up down the road? I mean, I don't see that happening, because I think you have an issue validating that somebody is a town resident remotely, right? I mean, I think there are a lot of logistics issues, so I think that's several years out, but we could take the stance to be more prescriptive prescriptive in it to say, look, it's for appointed or elected public, or appointed elected boards, committees, and commissions, and excludes any sort of public, I can't remember the language, and I was looking through here, I don't see it right now, but we can certainly do that too, if that's a concern of yours, that it goes beyond the actual board members.
My concern is that somebody who is a town meeting member, and we're all town meeting members before registered voters, says, well, I'm a legislator, I'm a town meeting member, how come they can do it and I can't? And it's not a bad question. So,
Yeah, and I hate to sound like the get off my grass guy.
I do feel old.
Yeah, I know, so do I, because part of volunteering for these boards and committees, I understand that there's convenience to the remote participation of the telecommuting, but there's also, when you do this, you commit to being there, and I know life gets in the way and people are busy. My commute is difficult. Some days I have to leave the office at 2:30 to make sure I can get here by 7 or by 6:30 to look at everything. So I get that. I'm just not. This is something I think I go the way of the moderator here, where I feel not strongly enough that you gain enough from the participation with what you lose from having it, if that has any clarity, so.
Can you explain what you feel we would lose from having it?
I think face-to-face interaction, especially when we're discussing, I see Ms. Parker will get you in a second. The face-to-face participation and the discourse over, putting that thing on, I think it becomes difficult to hear. I think it becomes, the person who's on there is losing the flow of the meeting and the order of how the meeting should go. I just think that this system is okay. And that's why we have so many members, that if one or two people have to miss, we still have a quorum. We're missing a member tonight, and I think we can still get our business done.
But I don't think you're losing anything by bringing people in remotely, because the person wouldn't be there otherwise. So it's only additive. I agree with you, the value of that ad is certainly up for debate, but you're getting somebody that can at least listen in and ask questions if they want to.
No, yeah, fair enough. I don't know, it's just, again, Ms. Parker, if you want to.
Thank you. I'm hoping you had an opportunity to read my letter of September 17th. I would like to reiterate from that, specifically with regards to the Charter Commission. We are an elected body. We worked extremely hard and for very long hours to get the question on the ballot and to get ourselves elected. We are not here so we can be absent. We want to be in the meetings. We want to be present. We are the only commission in this entire town that is operating under a state-mandated timeframe. And we have people who travel for business. We have people who work off business hour schedules. We have no control over that schedule. We are here because we want to be here. And we want to be able to discuss and vote. And the town deserves to have every elected member of that commission to be able to do so in a meeting. And if that means it has to happen via remote participation, so be it.
I concur.
I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think there are good arguments on either side. And I'm actually leaning towards no. I'm not in favor of it. If there's a board, the Charter Commission, is there anything saying that somebody can't, are we saying they can't listen in on a meeting? Or it's the voting, right? They'd be allowed to vote if we agreed?
It would be both.
I think we
Remote
get to sit
participation.
that.
No, that the guideline says that if there's remote participation, they have the ability to
can vote.
vote. And you put in control so that everybody, you do a roll call vote, every vote. You announce who is on the call. Like the guidelines, I mean, they're pretty descriptive to make sure that there's appropriate representation, that it's not abused. And, I mean, honestly, you know, like, this went into effect in 2011, November 2011. Like, we're coming up on 8 years. We have the three towns that I looked at, 2013, 14, and 15, they put remote participation in place. I mean, I just feel like we're behind the times in doing this. And I think we're missing out because of the ability, you know, because of things that you can't control. And I understand, like, we all want to be present, and that's something that, you know, again, it talks about, you have to have a quorum that's present. But people have opinions, and if they're not able to make that meeting, we should allow them the opportunity to engage in that discussion as well. That's my thought. I mean, I think there are more benefits than not. The technology issues are also addressed if there are issues, right? That it tells you how to handle it and what you would do. And certainly if, you know, we can revoke this at any time too. If we find that it's not working, that there's an issue with the Polycom and we'd have to spend X amount of money to do it, we can revoke the right for remote participation or the ability for remote participation.
Okay. Anything further on this? Can you add this to the agenda to vote for the next meeting?
Yep.
Thank you. Town managers report?
Just talk on that first.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the marijuana stuff.
Yeah, sorry. I checked it off on accident.
We got information Tuesday from town council, so if you can review that. And just, this is just a draft anyways. Everything would have to be negotiated with a company that comes in, so nothing is set here. When you have time, review what town council said and get me any comments that you have on that, and I can incorporate.
Mike, if I may, other Mike. I thought that.
You, I think.
Yes, the question is to you. So I thought that she was spot on, and I don't know why I didn't catch it when I was reading through the HCA, but I do think that we should go ahead and have them add some additional language to cover cultivation or manufacturing.
Yeah, I did. I asked her to get us
Okay.
that.
And then maybe we can submit comments from that too.
Yep,
Because I would like
sure.
to see what the differences are. I kind of thought of it holistically as a marijuana establishment, as we have it defined, but certainly if she says she has some other things, I'd like to see that.
Yep. Okay.
And we can go from there.
Great.
Super.
Anything else? Mary, you look like you got something?
Oh, no,
Okay.
it's just that look.
Okay, town managers report.
So I do actually have something
Oh,
on that.
sorry.
So I got an email from somebody that is interested in talking to the town. So should I put them in touch with Renee from the IDC?
We'd love to talk to
And
somebody at the
then
IDC.
you, Mike?
Yep.
Okay, I'll pass that on.
Just to give you an update on the capping of the Attleboro landfill, as you remember, they were looking at the method of capping it with recrete, and the DEP has approved that. They have not started yet, and the company said they're not ready to start yet, so I told them to let us know when they're going to start. So the recrete, once again, will be mixed off-site and then
New Bedford,
brought
right?
in to cover. And also, as part of the original agreement, they were going to redo Union Road for us. Well, we couldn't wait, so we did Union Road, but they've agreed that they'll compensate us for what we spent on Union Road. So as soon as they start going, that we'll get that. Just on Reed and Barton, we did receive an emergency waiver from the state, so we don't have to do another full procurement process. We provided them with the three prices that we were given, and they said they gave us the waiver to move forward on that, so we don't have to go through a whole new procurement process. And EPA has said that Building K, they'll start doing demo on that on Monday. And just a report on
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
a lot of letters. EPA Building K
Building K.
Okay.
That's the building they're taking down so they could get
into.
at the oil tanks underground.
Mike, I think too, maybe it was in a previous meeting, did we get an updated report from the DEP as well? Based on, maybe you sent it via email, based on some recent analysis. Does that sound familiar? I swear I saw one in my inbox.
No, I'll check.
Okay, I'll look. I was just gonna ask if we posted it online too. I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I remember opening it and seeing it, and maybe it was for something else.
Okay.
Thank you.
Seen that.
Our free cash has been certified. I'll just give you, here's just a history of where free cash has been over the last few years. So free cash has been certified at $4,181,813. And $584,346 of that. The main sources, that was unused free cash from the previous year. $982,189 was turnbacks. And $2,263,969 was from receipts above expectations.
Sorry, Mike, could you just repeat those numbers? Because that
Yep.
moved too fast for my...
$584,346 was unused free cash from the previous year. $982,189 was turnbacks.
What's a turnback?
Turnbacks, yeah.
No, what is it?
Money that departments didn't use.
Okay.
And $2,263,969 was receipts above expectations.
$2,063,000.
$2,263,969. And the bulk of that was motor vehicle excise and licenses and permits. I'll send that around so you can see. That's the final financials for last year. And I know last year with our free cash, 3% of it went to OPEB, 10% went to stabilization, 30% went into capital, and 10% was unappropriated.
Where are you reading that from? Is that on here?
No.
3% to OPEB, 10% to
Stabilization.
stabilization.
30% to capital,
Capital.
and 10% unappropriated.
And as I've said in the past, the Department of Revenue says that 3 to 5% of your budget should be free cash at the end of the year. And free cash should be focused on funding one-time expenditures like capital projects, snow and ice deficits, or emergencies. Building of appropriate reserves, stabilization, and capital, and/or to fund unfunded liabilities. And then our reserves that we have on hand should be 10 to 11% of the budget, so that our reserves would be stabilization, capital stabilization, and unused free cash.
So just looking through the percentages, that doesn't add up to 100, so where's the other?
That would
Does that just stay in free cash?
Right.
Okay.
fund the next year.
So there's a difference between free cash and unappropriated?
Right.
Okay.
Mike, can you tell us, what was the free cash initial amount? You said 4 million, I think 181,000, I didn't catch the rest.
813.
813.
Thank you.
Should have that in your,
Oh, we do?
that in your packet. Okay, but you should. So the general fund was $4,181,813. Enterprise water was $2,188,411. And enterprise fund sewer, $1,893,973.
So if I'm following the numbers correctly, if we had call it 4.2 in free cash, that's what, like 8.5% of the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. And we should be 3 to 5? 3 to 5%?
3 to 5%, yep, so.
Why do we think that we're higher? Is it just because the receipts?
The receipts, there was this was the first year of El Nilam, which was a big increase, and then just the $2,263,969 in receipts. We did increase for this fiscal year we're in now, our anticipated receipts under motor vehicle excise. We upped it by $500,000, so.
Okay.
Which will eat into some of that free cash
Okay.
next year.
I'm just wondering, is there any opportunities being lost with having more free cash on hand as opposed to being able to fund that for a lot of the things that we know the town needs?
No, it's just, good, as you can see from what we've had year after year.
Yeah.
And later on, I'll talk about our Standard & Poor's call. It obviously helps with Standard & Poor's when we're going out to borrow, and they see that the financial practices, we're being conservative so that we make sure that we do have free cash.
Yeah, I mean,
Mike, can I ask a question on the turnbacks? You said that's money not used by the departments?
Correct.
So we have almost $1 million that we allocated in a budget that wasn't used?
Most of it, like Function 9, that's insurances, so not as many people were on the health insurance as anticipated would be a big one. And that's the largest. You do see Function 3, which is schools, 169,000. Actually, $19,620 is what came from the Norton Public Schools, and that was prior year encumbrances that weren't spent. And then the rest was the amounts that were budgeted for Southeastern Regional and Bristol County Agricultural School we didn't have as many students as anticipated, so that was less.
So how does the money get allocated in the future? Like, does it go back then, say if a particular group, say just for an example, the fire department didn't spend their funds and it wasn't like the health insurance. Like, if they then had a request for some sort of equipment or something, do we consider kind of like a percentage of what's in there? No, it's just free game?
Just goes back into the general
Okay.
fund. I just want to report that as part of our street light program, that we're looking to convert our street lights, we're receiving a grant from MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, of $41,159 to help us with that program. We've been now designated as a municipal vulnerability preparedness community. I want to thank all the people that worked on that and came to the workshops. We had town employees plus business people and residents in town that came to several workshops that we did and put in a lot of time. I'll send letters to all of them. And because we were designated a community, it looks like we'll be receiving funds for engineering work on the culvert on Leonard Street that Keith is working on.
Oh, good.
That is good. And the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust Loan Forgiveness Award was received. They'll be forgiving on the West Main Street Sewer Project. they'll be forgiven $106,769 of the loan. So that's about 2.02%, they said, of that loan.
What was the value on that, Mike? Sorry.
$106,769.
Jack, there's a,
Is there a thing?
yeah, there's a thing on it too. If you want to just note that.
Got a lot of paper.
I know.
There's a lot of paper tonight.
And just on the Standard & Poor's update, we did have a call with Standard & Poor's this week, the financial team. And one of the things that was talked about there is the need to have a financial management plan. And we've got a pretty extensive plan that we've worked on, and we'll be getting it to you in the future to look at. And that is more or less saying, you know, we're going to, what percent of funds will go into stabilization, OPEB,
Yep.
and all those other, we'll get that to you in the future. And I just wanted to thank Carl and Betty Pietro. They spent a lot of time washing stones on veterans' graves and the government markers and edging all around the graves, and I'll send them a letter thanking them for that, but they spent a lot of time doing that for the town and getting them ready for Veterans Day that'll be coming soon, so.
And they're not even from the town, I just noticed the address over there.
Yep.
I can read something from that far away, just.
I can't, so good.
All right, is that everything?
Yep.
Thanks, Mike. Selectmen's report and mail, Mr. Conway.
I had this from, Bass Reed.
Yeah, she already announced those, yeah. Yeah, we don't have announcements on the agenda, the last couple of meetings.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
I have nothing other than to remind people there's a whole lot of stuff happening on 9/28 that I can't possibly remember at this point, but there's a Gold Star
There's a
Yard sale?
Gold Star yard sale at Tricentennial Park. There's the kickoff for the town master plan, and that'll be at the cable studio. There's coffee and donuts, 9 to 10, and then from like 10 to 11:30, they'll be taking input from residents and businesses. And at 11 o'clock is the walk down at the Camp Edith Reed.
Yep.
Open house and walk.
And then there's also, is that the walkabout, or is that something else?
No, that's Cape Rum,
That's a-
Cape
yeah.
Rum Park that you announced last time.
Yep. Lots to do on Saturday.
Yep. Ms. Steele? Ms. Deli?
I have two items. One is just, I don't think I forwarded this on, Mike, I think that you were on the email, resignation from the IDC. From one of the members, Dave Heaney resigned, so I just wanted to make mention if anybody is interested, or if you know of anybody who may be interested in serving on the IDC, please reach out to them and you know, a discussion with the IDC, and we can certainly do that, or if they're interested, they can submit a request to us. And then the other thing too is, this is a question more for Mike. So I've been looking at the reports that come out for the town accountant, and this is just my question. On here, you're listed as the town manager, and then Michelle's listed as the assistant town manager. Is that an appropriate title?
Assistant to the town manager.
Okay, it just says assistant town manager. Can we have that updated? Because I think they're different positions, right? Okay. Thank you. Those are my only two items.
And I have nothing. Under warrants and minutes, the report of Vice Chairman Mike Flaherty for the following payroll and invoice warrants. I approve payroll warrant PR 20-06 for the week ended September 7, 2019. Warrant dated September 12, 2019, the amount of $1,371,341.16. I also approved invoice warrant AP 20-11 dated September 12, 2019, in the amount of $603,842.82. And I approved the invoice warrant AP 20-12 dated September 19, 2019, in the amount of $811,597.48. We have three sets of minutes to approve. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I have not.
We can push those to October 3rd, please.
We still have an executive session, right?
We do.
Can we push them to the next meeting?
Yeah, we're going to push them next meeting.
Thank you.
We don't really have anything under next meeting's agenda for October 3rd as of yet, except for the stuff that we added tonight. If anything should come to mind, please email me and we'll get it on there.
The request we had from Catherine, the treasurer, just noting that about us potentially meeting at 6 PM that evening.
That's separate. So
Oh,
It won't
okay.
have anything to do with us.
Okay.
It won't have anything to do with this board.
Okay.
Did you grab my little talk track here?
Oh, no, we didn't.
Thanks.
Mike,
Oh.
did we? I don't think we did this.
Oh, so, yep. I do have one letter. Dear Board of Selectmen, I am writing to inform you that I wish to relinquish my position as a permanent / voting member of the Town of Norton's Council on Aging. I will continue to remain as an auxiliary non-voting member. Sharon Stedman and I are switching our positions. She will also be assuming the role of Secretary of the Council on Aging when it is voted on at the next COA meeting. Sincerely, Carol McLaughlin. Well, thank you for Carol for her years of service as an active member and voting member, but I'm sure she'll keep doing a good job as a auxiliary. I declare under General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection A3, that the purpose of the executive session will be to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining concerning AFSCME, AFL-CIO Council 93, Local 1702, water sewer employees, because a discussion of the strategy in open session could compromise the purpose of the executive session, and with the board not to return to open session at the conclusion of the open session.
I move that the board go into executive session under General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, for the purposes and reasons declared by the chairman, and with the board not to return to open session thereafter.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's got to be a roll call.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Ms. Daly?
Yes.
Ms. Steele? Ms.
Yes.
Conley? I do vote yes. Thank you, Shane.